So basically, Karl, I do a lot of endurance mountain biking and road biking, and have a little blog called Cycling Strong. And our audience is endurance athletes. And so I'd never learned about your product until I was in Leadville, Colorado. And I was staying at a place where there was a lot of endurance leadmen that were doing the 100-mile runs, the biking, and all that kind of stuff. And in one of our discussions, they asked me the products I was taking, and I told them, and they go, "Oh my goodness, you need to be taking these S caps." And I said, "I've never heard of an S cap in my entire life. What are you guys talking about?" "Oh, we've got them." I said, "Well," I've never heard a thing about these." And they go, "Well, you need to learn all about these." So I came home and I ordered some S caps. I ordered the 2 bottles of these and had them sent out to me. So I had them for Leadville. And I did some testing before I left just to make sure that, they were going to work in my system with what I was doing. And so I implemented these for Leadville and actually used them. And I know you've got some other products that are like, I want to say a preload and a recovery at the end, or maybe it's just recovery is how you state that. I'm not sure. But I want to kind of just talk to you because I know there's a lot of science and different things I was reading about on your website about this product that I don't think the audience that I talk to the most or that I'm around understands and knows much about. So I wanted to kind of give you that background so you kind of know who you were talking to. It's endurance cycling people, and our big thing is to make sure that we're winning races just like anybody else. So with that, Karl, I'm going to let you kind of talk a little bit about your company and Succeed, and tell us a little bit about the product.
Okay, well, the product came about back in the early 90s. I went to the American River 50-mile run in eastern California, and they joked there that that run is always held on the first hot weekend of the year, and that's the way it was then. It was a very high sky and dry conditions, and it was beautiful. I was running like crazy, and unbeknownst to me, I was losing a lot of fluid and a lot of salt as I was running, but I felt fine because my amounts of fluid and salt were decreasing proportionally, so everything was good. I was running well, but I kind of hurt my quads in the latter part of the run, and it slowed me way down. So I started drinking a lot. I realized I was kind of thirsty, so I started drinking, but I didn't have any electrolyte intake to speak of at that time. And essentially, I had lost a lot of salt. And then when I started drinking water, I diluted my sodium content in my blood substantially. And I finished the run okay, but it was a very poor time for me. I just didn't feel well. I went back to the hotel, and I was looking forward to dinner, and I just kind of crashed. And I ended up in the emergency room in Auburn, California, and had a very unpleasant evening there. And there's some side stories about that in some time, but long story short is I ended up with a mild case of dehydration and a mild case of hyponatremia. And so they did the blood test and found that. And it was such a bad experience. I told myself when I got home, I don't ever want to do this again. So I decided to study the physiology of electrolytes in the bloodstream, and with my knowledge of chemistry, to make something for myself, so I wouldn't have to go through that kind of situation again. And I was very successful. I did the studying, I worked on the formulation. I tried it on myself and some of my racing friends for about a year. So we were using this thing out there, and people said, "Gosh, this works great. You should sell this." And I already had a sports drink company. I was selling a couple sports drinks, and I added the electrolyte package to it. And then on top of that, I added a package of pre-race supplements that you take before an endurance event. And then kind of a very unique recovery pack. Everybody knows about recovery drinks where, it's a load of sugar that you take after you finish a strong event. Sometimes there's a little protein in it. I don't make one of those because I think you can probably get just as good a result on chocolate milk. Why should I compete with the local 7-Eleven where you can buy that stuff for pennies? What I do make in a recovery product is some supplements that you take just before you go to bedtime, and these aid your body's repair response. It's designed to give you a boost of your body's own growth hormone. I want to reiterate, there are no hormones in the product. It's nutritional supplements that aid your body in making what it needs itself. So that's kind of a unique product. But back to the S-caps. I made these things, and my friends tried them and loved them, and I put them on the market, and they've been just selling great ever since. And then there was a lady who had probably run more 100-milers than any other woman at the time, a lady by the name of Susan Pope. And she started carrying these and giving these out to people in these 100-mile ultra marathons, because she'd run across people who were just dead meat on the trail from loss of electrolytes and failure to replace electrolytes. She'd give them a couple S-caps, and 10 minutes later, they're back running and finishing the race, and that sort of aid, people remembered. And really, what my goal is with these products is to get people to cross the finish line with a smile on their face. We don't make a lot of claims about, you'll win the event, it'll be a PR. No, what we want is people go to an event, they finish it, they have great memories, they come home happy. That's what we're looking for.
Cool. So let's talk about your products from kind of start to finish. So because I don't know all your products, like I said, I've just taken one of them. So I know you've got, it sounds like you've got a product that I would take pre-race, and that product is called what?
Pre-race.
It's called, wow, great name.
I like to keep things simple.
There you go. So we've got pre-race, which we take before the race. We have the S-cap, which we take during the race. And if I remember right, it's one per hour, or depending on dehydration, right? So if it's really hot, you could take up to 2, if I remember right. Is that right?
Yeah, and it's essentially a personal thing, and it varies with conditions. When it's the first hot day of spring, people are losing a lot of electrolytes, and a couple per hour is not unrealistic. Towards the end of the summer, people are better acclimated to the heat, and maybe 1 per hour is fine. Some people are able to look at their hands and see if their hands are swelling slightly. They know it's time to take an S-cap, and there's a physiological reason for that. For some people, that doesn't work very well, and they just take them by the clock. My own self, I tend to monitor my stomach. If my stomach is starting to feel a little queasy or a little odd, I know I need sodium. So I take one, and within a couple minutes, I'm back to normal again. And I also get a feeling that my legs are stronger. If I'm low on sodium and I take one of these things, I notice that it rehydrates my muscles and I feel strong. So each person is slightly different. I know some people who would take maybe one every 2 hours. I've heard of professional triathletes who are just absolutely hammering the course, tell me that they can't really perform at their best unless they take 6 an hour. Now, that's an extreme amount. I would not recommend that amount to the average person. I would say, 1 or 2 per hour is sufficient. And after a while, you can kind of get a feeling for these in training. You use them, and you start to understand how your body reacts when you take these. And after a while, you say, hey, I'm starting to feel like I need some electrolytes. One of the things I want to emphasize here is that these are a replacement product. It is not a loading product. Some people say, oh, well, this is great. Maybe I should take 5 of them the day before the event. No, that's a really bad idea. It's the same kind of situation with trying to load up on the water before the event. I've heard people say, I'm going to drink like fish the day before the event, so I'm fully hydrated. Well, yeah, you will be fully hydrated, but you will also flush a lot of your body electrolytes, and that will make you even more prone to electrolyte loss and shortage on the day of your event. So it's much better not to load anything. Just relax, eat and drink the way you normally would the day before, and then use these things during the event itself. So it's not a loading thing. You can run for an hour easily in most conditions without needing extra electrolytes. But sooner or later you will, and that's the point at which you take it. So the kind of a rule of thumb is people say, I'll take one in the first hour, and then they go from there.
Okay.
And for someone like who is running a marathon, we would advise them to take one before the start, one at the halfway point, and if it's a really hot, sweaty day, take one at 20 miles, and that's it.
Okay, good. So I guess the number one benefit of using Succeed products is the way they're formulated, or how they're going to make you feel at the end of the race.
Well, I would say it's a combination of both of those things. They'll work well for people, and that will let them have a good event, and they will automatically feel good at the end of the race. I would say the big thing is we don't load up our product with a lot of gimmicks. Our products are formulated by a technical person, not an advertising person. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to say bad things about advertising people. Sure. But I formulated all these products for myself and my own ultramarathon, and I'm the one who suffered if they didn't work, and the one who enjoyed the results if they did work. So I didn't make them to make something cute to advertise, or 870 flavors that you can have. This is all very simple stuff. It's built on the physiology of the human body. It's not built on gimmicky things. It's not built on putting, 87 things on the label, none of which are in a large enough amount to actually do anybody any good. So it's a very practical kind of thing. You have a pre-race supplement pack that you take just before. You can take one of our two drinks during the race, and you put the S-cap, and then after the event for recovery, particularly in training, you take a recovery pack before you go to bed. And that's it. There's about 47 varieties here.
Cool. So if I go through your system again, then you got the pre-race, you take night before, and then you've got a drink. What's in your drink? Is it your food? Is that your nutrition? I mean, what's in the drink that you're taking with the S-cap?
Yes, we have two drinks. They are carbohydrate sources, so they do supply carbohydrate energy. Depending on how hard somebody's working, they may be enough or slightly less than enough energy intake. Then, in which case, somebody would supplement with something else, like a gel or real food, whatever they like. But one of the drinks was specifically formulated for people who were running 100-kilometer races in the World Cup Championship. I had some friends who did that on a fairly regular basis, and I formulated a drink for their races. It's carbohydrates, some electrolytes, and some amino acids. And what's unique about it is they are the amino acids that are used in athletic events. When you eat a piece of chicken, you get a spectrum of amino acids, which are all good for your body. But some of those actually are not necessary when you're exercising, especially if you're exercising hard. So I made these drinks for somebody who's going to race really hard for roughly 7 hours. And you can look at this as 100-kilometer times are roughly equivalent of Ironman triathlon. So that's kind of a similar sort of situation for me. So I made this very, very digestible. For someone who's working at a really intense rate, doesn't have a lot of blood flow to their stomach for digestion, you're not going to do well on steak. So I made this drink very digestible, and it's for people who are racing. A second drink is called Flip, and it's a carbohydrate, a small amount of fat, and then some protein to basically protect your muscles and also give you some food. It's for people who are racing or who are running at a more relaxed pace. And typically that is for ultramarathoners who run 50 to 100 miles. And they need something a little more in the way of food in terms of their energy sources, carbohydrate, fat, and protein. So there's not a lot of fat, there's not a lot of protein because your body frankly doesn't need a lot of those, but it does make a difference over a very long event like that.
Okay, so you take that, and the S caps take care of the electrolytes while you're doing that for the hydration, and then when you get done with your event that evening, you said you take the recovery drink, or 20 minutes after you're done with the event.
20 minutes after the event, or 10 minutes within, like a 10 to 15 minute window in there, I would go with just chocolate milk, because it's giving you a lot of sugar and some good protein at that time. The recovery pack, it's supplements, it's not a drink. It's just pills to swallow, capsules to swallow with some water right before bedtime. And that right before bedtime is a key ingredient because most body repair takes place right after you fall asleep. Your body goes into a mode where it says, hey, I've got nothing else to do. I'm now time to do repair. And you get a surge of growth hormone that helps that repair. And the supplements in this pack are designed to aid the output of that growth hormone. So, if you took that right after the event, it would be too early. It would be good nutritionally, but you'd be missing the growth hormone phase of the supplementation of that. And if you took it at dinner time, it just gets digested along with other food. So what you really want to do is wait right before bedtime and take it then. So that's when it's most effective.
So do you take that, like, let's say that I'm working out every day, 2-hour workouts, 3-hour workouts, working out for a big event, and I want my recovery to be quicker. I mean, would that be something I would take every night then to aid in that recovery to be able to perform better the next day? Or is it just, I should just take it after big events?
Well, I would say it depends on how hard you're training. If you're really out there for hours and hours to the point where you've done a lot of endurance work on your body, then I would take it every night that you do that. For somebody, let's say, who's just marathon training, they're probably going to do intermediate distance runs during the week, and then on the weekend they'll do a long run. So the recovery pack could be used the night that they've done that long run, and then that would help them recover. I've heard people say, I ran a marathon, I took the recovery pack, I got up the next day and felt like I could do the marathon all over again.
That's awesome.
Kind of extreme, but that's the idea.
Okay, cool. All right, so that's awesome. So you actually have 4 different products that I'm understanding. You have the pre-race, you have the S-Cap, you have your drink, and then you have the recovery stuff before you go to bed.
Right, 2 drinks, so it's 5 total. But
that's right. Yeah, you have the 2 drinks. Gotcha. Okay, cool. And then, so I'm just going to go through a couple of questions so the audience kind of has a brief answer on all this stuff out there. I think we've covered most of the stuff, but just if you can give us just a brief answer on that. So the ideal athlete for your product, I'm assuming, is some sort of an endurance athlete?
Absolutely. The guy who's out just to mow his lawn doesn't need this stuff. It's kind of overkill. This is for people who are seriously into long distance events.
Okay. The third question is, how do I monitor myself as I use your products? Is there a monitoring system so I know they're working for me or they're not working for me?
I think that the main thing for me on the S-caps is to monitor my stomach and my legs. If I feel my legs getting tired, if I feel my stomach getting queasy, then I think it's time to take one of these. If I took them 5 minutes ago, maybe that's a false alarm. But if it's been an hour since I took one and I feel something coming on, then I would take one. With the drinks, it's easy. If you're getting hungry and thirsty, you take it.
Gotcha. Okay, good. How did the company get started? You already kind of said that. You had an event that you went to, and it started you creating different things to make it work, so you didn't have to go through the pain that you went through for not having the electrolytes that you needed. So I think we've answered that one. uh, what makes succeed unique or different? And I guess what I keep hearing is formulation. I'm not quite sure what that means, but I mean, I think the other part that you said that I thought was really cool is that you've got a chemical background or chemistry background and have looked at the body maybe in a different way of how these products are going to work. Can you expound upon that just a touch?
Yeah, I have a technical background. It includes computer science, chemistry, mathematics. I've got a very, very broad technical background, which allows me to see systems in their entirety rather than a very narrow focus. And I never ever do anything just for the standpoint of, gosh, this might look cool on the label or giving some sort of marketing gimmick. I have to say, I do this stuff for myself, and so it has to work. I think one of the big things about Succeed is that the formulations are based on the physiology of the human body. I've gone in, done the homework to try and understand that, what that means, what that implies for what you take in. And as I look at a lot of other formulations out there, there's stuff out there from people who haven't gone through that kind of pain to dig into it that way. Yeah. And, they're just saying, well, this sounds good, that sounds good, showing some of that, maybe this is cool. And those, you can always formulate stuff that way, but when it comes time to work in your body, it's not the way it should be. Your body wants certain things in certain amounts and certain ratios. And if you give it to your body, it's going to be very happy and work well.
That's awesome. Okay. So another question is, let's go with the top 3 most frequently asked questions about your product, and then let's talk about what the 3 most frequently should be asked questions are, they should be asking about the product.
Well, the most frequently asked questions are, how do I use these things, and how long do I have to train with these before they'll work for me, or I'll be able to see if they're good. And my typical response to those kinds of questions is, SCAPs are based on what's been in your blood from the time you're born to now and the time you'll die. So you don't need to get your body used to SCAPs. You have to figure out how to use them for your own best needs. But your body already knows exactly how to use what's there. That's one of the advantages of formulating based on human physiology. So as far as training with them, it doesn't take a whole lot of time. I think the big thing is, SCAP people can use them right away. We've had situations where people were in trouble on the trail, they'd never taken an SCAP in their life. Somebody gave them 2 and they got up and finished the race. That's how much training time they needed. The drinks, we make our drinks very lightly flavored, and some people might find those a bit odd at first because we leave the high acid out of the drinks. When your body is burning carbohydrates, it's making acid, so you're overloading your body with acid. When you're out there really working hard, your body is trying to figure out how to get rid of that acid. And so we don't want to put more of it in the drink itself. So what happens with that is that the drinks don't have a real bright, snappy flavor. That kind of throws people off, and the first few times that might seem odd to them. The kind of thing that I wish people would ask more is, why should we use all your products together, or how can we use all your products together, or is there any benefit to use all your products together? Because they are formulated as a suite. Each one of them will work by itself or in conjunction with products from other people or from other companies. But they really work best when you use the whole group of them together because they're formulated that way.
Cool. So that's good to know. I didn't know that, so that's really good for me to know. And obviously I haven't tried your other products, just the SCAP, so I'm excited to give those other products a try in that regards, because that makes a lot of sense to me. So let me ask you this, number 8, how do you know if your product is working for you. We already talked about that. How does your product work with the body compared to others? We've got that. Well, I think I want you to expound upon that just a little bit, because there's a lot of other sodium products out there. And one of them, I'm not going to bring up the name of the company, but I have tried, and it was not good for me. So there must be a difference in the way that they say, I'm assuming, sodium, or how much they're giving you or what they're doing, because I used the product twice because I thought the first time, it's just, a coincidence that it didn't work. Second time, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never using this again. And I used another product and never had any problems. So is there different ways to look at this type of product when you're trying them out? And is there, I don't know, delivery system different or something to that nature?
Well, there are a number of different formulations out there. Some of them are extremely weak. Some of them are very poor formulations. When you look at what your body wants, say in terms of potassium and sodium, you find that the ratios are way off. Whoever formulated those, just didn't understand blood electrolytes. And so, if you don't give your body what it's looking for, what it wants, it has to work hard to make up the difference. It has to throw away stuff, or it doesn't get as much as it wants. And the net result of that is that your performance goes down, especially if your body is having to work hard to get rid of something that it didn't want in the first place. There are a lot of different formulations. One of the things I would strongly advise people against is products that fizz. Those may be fine for, let's say, a marathon or something short. Products that fizz have almost no chloride in them. Regardless of what it says on the label, they don't have chloride, because you can't make a product fizz if it has a lot of chloride. It's just basic chemistry. And the second most important electrolyte in your blood after sodium is chloride. It's what you need for stomach acid digesting your food. And if you work long enough without it, your stomach's going to start paying the price for that. It's not real fast. Like I said, you probably run a marathon on this type of product and not really notice anything. So you already have enough chloride in your body to make up the difference. But you get into 100-milers and Ironmans, products of fizz, I would say, are inadvisable because they don't match human physiology.
Cool. Okay. One of my other questions for you was elevation. I was told by somebody that you need more electrolytes at higher elevations. True or false?
I've never seen anything that really says that that's the case. And there are people in the U.S. military who have studied these things far more than you and I know. And they have looked into, what do you need for cold, what do you need for heat, what do you need for altitude. And based on the stuff they found, I don't really know that anybody needs a lot more electrolytes when they're at altitude. If somebody is drinking, somebody may be drinking a lot of water at altitude because they've heard that you have to stay hydrated, and indeed you lose a lot of water through your lungs at high altitude because the air is so dry. Your lungs are a source of water as well as your external skin. So it may be that if someone is drinking a lot of water, they may need extra electrolytes to balance that water that they're taking in. But altitude per se, I don't think increases the need for electrolytes.
Okay. So kind of my last wrap up here, Karl, is if we were a week out from a 100-mile run or a 100-mile bike ride, tell us how you would approach that week. Since you've been an ultra runner and you're an expert in this kind of stuff, kind of walk us through what you would do and how you would dial your nutrition in so that you kind of had your body, I don't want to say preloaded, but ready for the event and things like that. Can you help us with that?
I think I would just try to generally follow a good nutrition plan all that week. I would pay a lot of attention to the amount of sleep I get. I would try not to miss any sleep in that time. I would look at my nutrition to make sure I wasn't overloading on one thing and sort of unbalancing myself. I wouldn't go crazy trying to load fluids. I wouldn't try and load carbohydrates. If I'm training for that kind of event, I'm going to be eating a lot of carbohydrate anyway because I'm going to be burning a lot of calories for the training. And I would for a major event, I would think in terms of 6 months of training. And by that, by the time I've gone through 6 months of training, I would have a darn good idea as to what works for my body and what doesn't.
Yeah.
One final thing I would add on that is that when I go to the event, once it happens to be one that's right next door to you, you're going to be eating food along the way. Be extremely careful about what you eat along the way. Stay away from raw foods like salad bars, fish, stuff that maybe isn't cooked fully. I'd stay away from things that people have a lot of hands in. I've had situations that I've seen others have horrible situations where they got some bug, the 24 hours before the event, and all those months of training went out the window because their stomach was in a turmoil and they just couldn't perform up to what they had trained for. So that would be, I think, the one thing that people could easily overlook is, oh, hey, I'm going to the event, hey, it's great, I'm gonna go on, I'm gonna have all kinds of stuff. I've never had that before. I'll eat that, and it could be a big mistake.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, good. Well, I can't thank you enough. I'm excited about your product because I've had good success with it, and it's not a product that I've seen. Like I said, I've never walked into a bike shop and seen your product on their shelf, and so that's where it got me curious. And when I started using the product and used it at Leadville, it worked really well for me, and I had good success with it. So I wanted to reach out to you and chat a little bit about it so that the rest of the world out there can, and especially the biking people, can get to know about it, that there are some really, really good options out there besides, some of the stuff that they might be taking now and might actually help them out. So I can't thank you enough for taking some time out for us. Is there any last things you want to share with everybody, or have we covered it all?
Well, I think you've done a really good job of covering all the technical stuff. And I used to do a lot of biking before I got into running, and I know that the biking world has its own set of products. This is maybe the skiing world and the tennis world. So I would say, to the bikers, look a little beyond that set of products that you're familiar with. You might find some really nice stuff out there.
Cool. Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to stop the recording then, and thank everybody out there for watching this segment, and stay tuned for more interviews with different people we're going to do, and we appreciate Karl's time.